Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? My name is Tony Rizzano, and this is another episode of the world famous, the University Love, the best podcast in 1, 2, 3 galaxies. But, ladies and gentlemen, you and I, we just call this show Online Marketing Moves, and we are coming to you live today. It is Saturday morning, February the 18th. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing today? Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get down to the point. We are going to get to it very quickly today. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about one thing, and we are going to talk about one thing only. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about fear. Do you have a fear of anything? Do you have a fear of rejection? Do you have a fear of coming up short with the idea that you have in your head? Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to tell you you must, and sometimes it can be hard for some people, but you must wipe these thoughts out of your mind. The fear of rejection, the fear of failure, the fear of all that stuff. You must wipe it from your brain. And I know sometimes it starts and it's amazing. If you sit back and think about it. I was laying down yesterday. I was taking a 5-minute break, and I was thinking to myself, and I remember I give you a quick story when I was a kid. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to sell some Halloween candy, because I didn't want to eat. I wasn't gonna eat all this candies, and I thought to myself, and I remember of course, I grew up in this apartment, and there was nothing but kids out there. So, I'm talking to one of them, and they said, "Man, I ain't got no more Halloween candy," blah blah blah. And it was like November the 2nd or whatever, and I was like, that's interesting. If I could sell this candy, to these kids, because I had a boatload of it, because I didn't eat it. I didn't really eat too much of it at once. I had a little discipline back then. But part of the story is I wrote down prices. I remember I wrote down prices on a piece of paper. This is back in the 80s, so I wrote down the prices, and then I remember I brought my bag outside, and I started to sell some candy, and I started to make a few bucks. And I remember my mom came outside, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Selling candy." And she said, "Selling candy?" And then she basically shut the operation down. I made like $3, and she shut the operation down. And I said, "This is some BS." And my mom, growing up, she's one of these people that always say, you got to get a job, you got to get a job, you got to get a job. She was never, you can own your own business, you can do this, you can do that. It was always, go get a job, go get a job, go get a job. So, quite naturally, when I was, 18 or 16, I got a job here, got a job there, 21, 22, I'm just working, working at these jobs. And, at some point in my life, I'm like, whatever my parents ingrained me, the fear of, because one time my brother was talking about owning a business, and my dad was like, "You gotta have money for all that. You ain't got no money for that." So the fear of of not having enough money, that sort of was ingrained into me and my brother from my parents. Oh, you gotta have money to do this, you gotta have money to do that. You gotta have money for some things, but some things you don't have to have a lot of money for. They didn't really say that part. So it took a little while, in my 20s. Took a little while for me to get over the indoctrination that my parents gave me. You know what I mean? The fear of not having enough money, the fear of not having a job. That all that was something that I had to overcome. I had to get over. And sometimes I think about it. Owning the trucking business. Doing the internet. Marketing, the copywriting. Some days I still think back and I go, should I just stop all this and get a job? And, I have to tell myself, no, we got to keep going. My parents ingrained that nonsense into me, but I can't let that allow to be my life story. And a lot of times we don't think, you leave a place, you grow up in a place, but sometimes the place doesn't leave you. If you understand what I'm saying, I'm from a small town, and sometimes you come from a little town, from a small town. You move. No matter where you move to, sometimes you still have the small mind mentality, and growing up in a small town, it has its good points, its bad points, like any other place, like living anywhere, But you have to be yourself. You have to be mindful of, what lessons you learn from your parents, what lessons you learn from any adult, growing up. And sometimes those lessons were great, and sometimes they were negative. Sometimes they put a fear in you that you don't realize that it is in you, And it's like when I watched my daughter. I remember when she was younger, she started climbing up the fireplace, and she would climb up the little fire. It's like a little step to the fireplace, and she would climb up it, and she would try to walk on the fireplace. And one time she fell, and she started crying, and she was in pain. She was, and I picked up, I said, hey, it's okay. And, we went through this for like 20 minutes, and I remember it was like 5 minutes later, maybe. Five minutes later, she was right back on the fireplace doing the same thing. And I just looked, and I was going to, at first, if my wife would have been there, my wife would have took it down. But I said, you know what? Forget about it. I said, this kid ain't got fear. This kid, that was 20 minutes ago. She's living in the present moment, And a lot of times, for a lot of us, we think about, oh, this failed back in when I was whatever age, or this didn't work back then, and now it's not gonna. But the thing is, it didn't work then, but what about now? The business you wanted didn't work then, but what about the business you're starting now? What about the thing you want to do now? The most important time is right now. A lot of times we live in the past, we live in the future. But a lot of times, even more today, through the social medias and I don't know, just life, I guess, for some reason. But a lot of times we live in the future, we live in the past, but we don't live in the right now. And the thing about fear is that stuff happened yesterday. That stuff happened a long time ago. But sometimes we still live in it. But what you have to do is think about something that you might have a fear of, fear of failure, fear of whatever. Pause for a moment, think about it, and say, hey, that was in the past, and there are many things that you can do to overcome it. And the main thing that you can do is just start working on the new project. Start doing the new thing. Do the thing that you always want to do. Do the thing that you always had the desire to do. Do it now. Do it today. I was telling myself, I remember I talked about it in the podcast. I said, I'm going to write 2 books by the end of the month. And last week, I said, all right, we've done enough talking about these 2 books. Let's do an outline. Let's get this party started, And then I had to go back and find my paper. I wrote down, a lot of the stuff already. So, I said, I'm going to do an outline, and then, in the next 10 days, I'm just going to flush them out, because there's no fear. And for me, I used to be fearful of just failure, like, oh man, what if this don't work? What if that don't work? Can I do this? Should I do this? And after a while, if you think about it, it don't really matter. You do your best. You do the thing you think is right, and with time and with patience and with persistence, You'll get better at whatever you want to do. Does not matter what it is. Does not matter. Don't matter what it is. You can only get better at something that you really want to do. You only get better at it. There's no going around about it. You can do it. If there's something you want to do, you must do it. There's no, I'm scared of this and scared of that. There's no, they have a lot of self-help books, but you don't need to read that many self-help books. Trust me. You just need to help yourself and, live in the moment, live in the present, and don't worry about rejection because, like I told you before, man, somebody's gonna hate. It don't matter what you do. People hated Jesus, so I mean that's my go-to line these days because it's very true. I mean, people hated Jesus. People hated, they hate God. They hate, they hate jelly beans. They hate all kinds of things. Listen, if there's something you want to do, there's something you tried before and it didn't work, forget about it. Take the thing that didn't work, learn from it, and then go ahead, move forward, be in the right now, and start doing the thing right now. Don't worry about the future. Don't worry about the past. Worry about the right now. And the more that we can be like children when it comes to just being in the present moment, the better off we can be. Because one day my daughter's going to grow. She's going to grow older. She's going to be 10, 11, yada, 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 12, 13, probably more high school for the most part. She's going to go to high school and she's going to think about, well, if I do this, then so-and-so might laugh or so-and-so's going to be, I'm going to embarrass myself. Or I remember I tried this and that didn't work and I'm going to have to tell my daughter the story about her falling down and her coming back 20 minutes later, trying the same thing over and over again. Her trying to walk, falling down over and over and over again, I'm going to tell her the story and I'm going to say, hey, don't start. As when we become adults, we forget the things that worked as children. I don't know about you, but I remember I jumped off a roof when I was a kid. I wasn't scared of nothing. Okay, I had zero fear. I jumped off a roof. I used to jump my bike all the time. Run through fields. All kinds of nonsense. Climb through. Go through sewers, and I was never like, oh man, what if a rat bites me or something like that, I didn't even think about all that. I was telling my wife one day, I said, yeah, we used to walk through the sewers, and she said, you never thought about rats? I said, I mean, I'm like 10. I don't think I cared about a rat then, but now as an adult, I'd be like, ooh, rats, mice, I'm fearful. But if we take the childlike charge of, just like, hey, I can do this, I can do that, I can do anything. If we just take that and apply that to our adult lives, we'll be a whole lot better. And we will lose the fear. And we could be in the present moment instead of being in the past or in the future. So be in the present. Fear, hey, listen, we all get nervous about something, but we have to overcome that. We have to push through that. You push through that. I'm sure the guy that fights in boxing, when he steps up to the boxing ring, and they're like ding ding ding, I'm sure the guy probably has a little bit of like, I'm doing this, but he goes out and he goes out swinging. You know what I'm saying? Win, lose, or draw, they go out swinging, and that's what you must do. Go out swinging. All right. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back Monday with the all new episode of Online Marketing Moves. But until then, my name is Tony Zano. Thank you for listening. And as always, everybody, peace.